Okay. Today is April 7, 2022. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public, recorded, and posted on YouTube. The agenda here is linked in the meeting invite. Feel free to add to it as we go. On the agenda today, we're going to go over the 124 planning items. To note where we are in the 124 planning cycle, the code freeze has already happened. That happened on the 30th of May, about a week or so ago. And the upcoming deadlines are really around kind of stabilizing and finishing up the post-code code freeze work. Specifically, the next deadline, well, it was supposed to be cutting an RC release, but that's been delayed until Monday the 11th. So that's coming up soon. Then test freeze is actually past us now. It was yesterday. And then docs must be completed and reviewed by the 12th. Feature blogs must also be completed by the 12th, and then the release will happen on the 19th. If you are have a 124 feature that you're doing a blog post for, please take a look at the spreadsheet and make sure your blog post is tracked here. And then the folks who are helping with the blog post will be able to reach out to you and make sure that all the requirements are completed on time for that. So that's pretty much it for the timeline. We're going to go ahead and switch over to the planning spreadsheet and get an update on where the different features stand. Okay. So first, we have CSI online offline resizing volume expansion. Is Hemant on the line? I didn't see him earlier. Or does anyone else have a status update for this item?
I think this one is complete except the blog. I'm not sure what's the status of the blog, but code is complete. Doc PR is also merged, I think.
Cool. Thank you, Shane. The next item we have is recovering from resize failures.
This one we decided not to move forward because I think there's more work. So staying off, obviously.
Sounds good. And then we have, actually, I'm going to go ahead and mark the first one as completed. Next, we have issues related to assuming mount points. Volumes are mount points. Jing, are you on the line? Anyone have an update on this one? Okay, we'll skip over that one. Next item is determine mount points without relying on proc mount. Anyone able to give an update on this? Manu? Jan?
So there are PRs on reviews, but they will be in Kubernetes 125.
Say that last part again. PRs review.
Yeah, we missed the deadline, so they will be part of 125.
Got it. All right. Next item is storage capacity tracking for pod scheduling. So it looks like last status here, main PR was merged, conformance PR, test PR will wait a couple of weeks, and doc PR is open. Anything new here?
Yeah, there is a draft of the blog. So it's today.
Sorry, say that again, Jan.
There is a draft of a blog article.
Got it. Okay. And all the code is complete, including the test PRs.
I'm not sure about the tests.
Got it.
I think the conformance test PR, that's also merged.
Got it.
I just see that just like a couple days ago.
Okay.
So I think there's still outer tree external provisioner. There's still some work to do on there. And also Patrick is going to submit a PR to use the updated CSI spec 1.6, right? The one that you just cut, Saad.
Got it. Okay. So we'll keep that as started, and hopefully we can wrap that up soon. Next is CSI ephemeral volumes existing API. This is being delayed to 125, so we'll just copy that over. Next is the volume group API updated kept to address comments. Any new updates here?
So I think right now the cap does not have anything about static provisioning. So I'm actually looking into that. I want to add that into the design.
Cool. Thank you, Xing. And then we're gonna next item is CSI out of tree, move iSCSI driver, fit and finish. I don't know if we have an update from Humble on this one. Go ahead and mark that as no update. And then similarly, we have the Samba SIFs CSI driver. Last status here, cloud build issues partially fixed. Anyone have an update on that? We'll go ahead and mark that as no update for now. Next is PVC volume snapshot namespace transfer. Misaki, any updates on this?
Yeah, Mustafa and I studied discussion on transfer feature for 1.25 release and started creating a new cap draft.
Got it. Cool, thank you. Okay, let me go ahead and move to the next item, which is CSI volume health, additional metrics and or events. Last status was PRs merged but reverted, submitted again, and review in progress. Were these able to make it?
Yes, I did make it.
Yes.
And there's a dog PR that is being reviewed. I think that's the only thing remaining.
Okay. So next up is the programmatic response piece of this.
Right, I pinned Nick. Still we're waiting for him to respond.
Okay, thank you, Xing. Next item is volume populator data source. Ben?
Yeah, the code is done. The tests are done. The docs are done. Thanks to the people who helped with this. So it's officially beta. The remaining item is the blog. Saad, are you sure about that deadline? Because it's earlier than I had thought for the blog.
Blog is ready for review on April 12th.
All right. Okay, well, that means I have to hurry up and write the new blog. Because I'm going to be on vacation next week, so I got to get it out this week, I guess.
Got it.
But yeah, that's the last remaining item for the move to beta.
Cool. That's pretty exciting. Thanks, Ben, for your work on this. Next up is object storage API Cozy.
So the cap is still being reviewed.
Okay.
So there's a back and forth review and update going on.
Sounds good. Next, we have change block tracking.
Yeah, so I think Fan has organized a few meetings to discuss the design. So it's ongoing. Design is ongoing.
Sounds good. And then next item is runtime assisted mounting.
Yeah, this is in progress, continuing to make updates to the CAP.
And I imagine we're going to move this to 125. Would that be design or alpha for 125?
I would say like maybe we can shoot for an alpha if all the reviews are done.
Cool. Thank you, Deep. Next item is CSI proxy for Windows transition to privileged containers.
So I think Mauricio mentioned that there might be an issue with like resources to complete some of this work for this quarter. So it may have to move to 125.
Got it. Okay, next item is node expansion secret. Anyone have an update on this?
Right, so we actually requested exception, but the release team rejected that. They think it's a high risk. Yeah, when we applied for it, we have not got API review yet. We finally got an API review, actually got approval from Clayton on Monday, so it's still delayed. We asked again after the approval. They still do not want to allow it because they say there are still some blocking issues in 1.24 that blocking release, so they're afraid of adding anything that could introduce some regression.
Okay.
So this is yeah, so this will be 1.25. So we'll try to get this one merged.
Yeah, it looks like we can get it early.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you, Xing. Next item is SE Linux relabeling using mount options. Jan? Delayed.
Well, it's the same. It will be delayed to 125.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Next two items are complete. Next, we have CSI core CSI migration core bugs and issues. Any issues or any updates here? Looks like there were some bug fixes. Did they end up getting merged? Okay, we'll mark that as no update. Next up is vSphere CSI migration. So it looks like not on by default. Deprecate vSphere 67U3. PR submitted. Any new updates there?
So that PR got merged. Yeah, so that's it. So we're still discussing when we should remove the support for 6.7. That's pending.
Okay. And next up we have Azure. Anyone have updates on that?
Yeah, that one is done.
Say that again, Shane.
That is complete. That one code is merged. I believe doc is also merged. I just double check. I think it's also merged.
And that's the case for both the Azure ones.
I think so.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and mark those as complete. And GC is already complete. Next up is OpenStack. Anyone have updates on the OpenStack?
Yeah, that one is complete. That code and doc are all complete.
Okay. And then we have Ceph RBD.
So that one did not make it. So Humble submitted PR, but he only provided manual tests. So we need E2E tests that are also running the in-tree volume tests. So he is going to work on that for 1.25.
Got it. Okay. And then Ceph FS, is it the same story?
I think this is delayed. This one was already, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Next up is Portworx. Anyone for Portworx have an update?
So yeah, so this one seems to there are some miscommunications. The author, Tira, she didn't submit a PR to turn on the feature gate to beta. Somehow she missed that. So she was submitting some tests, but I think it, the alpha feature gate is still alpha, it's not beta. So we'll have to try again in 1.25.
Okay. Next is always honor reclaim policy. Looks like main PR is merged, end-to-end tests in progress. And blog.
We missed the test deadline. There were some issues with the implementation, so we decided to revert the feature gate back to alpha.
Got it.
And the PR has been just merged, so it's alpha. And we will try again next time.
Okay, thank you, Jan, for the update. Okay, next item is control volume mode conversion between source and target PVC. PR in progress was the last status update here. Did this get merged?
Yeah, it's well, there are multiple PRs still ongoing. So there are some work ongoing on external snapshotter and also external provisioner. So we are still moving forward, but it's still in progress. And there's a doc PR that's been reviewed. Block is pending. It's there's a placeholder for that.
Cool, thank you, Shane. Next up is secret protection. Anything new here? I guess this one is based on the next item, and the next item is in-use protection.
Still updating cap locally.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move this to 125. Okay, next item is ungraceful node shutdown. Last status update was PR and review, placeholder blog out. Any new updates there?
Yeah, so code PR is merged. Doc PR is being reviewed. Blog is also being reviewed.
Awesome. Thank you, Shane. And finally, we have volume expansion for stateful sets.
It looks like Shalini is not here today. I don't know. I haven't heard from her.
Okay,
So she's
no
probably
worries.
still working on the cap.
Call that no update, likely move to 125. Okay, so yeah, again, reminder, the feature blog deadline is coming up April 12th, which is pretty soon. So if you're working on a blog, please get that done as soon as you can. With that, we'll go ahead and move over to PRs to discuss. And first up, we have consider only CSI drivers that support node stage as device mountable. Matt, are you on the line?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So I already got reviews for both these, but I'm just here to hassle people a little bit more. These are related to Manu's mount point check PR in the sense that the motivation is the same. We want to speed up mounting and unmounting for EFS because we have a customer that's complaining about it. But I also have numbers somewhere in the PR to demonstrate that this actually helps. So for this one, the title kind of is nonsense, but it's basically saying for CSI drivers that do not implement node stage, we are treating them internally as device mountable. And that's been fine, except there is this part of the code that is using that device mountable check to decide whether mount operations can run in parallel or not. Because if you imagine like EBS, you can only mount the device once somewhere, right? So it makes sense not to parallelize that. But for EFS, it doesn't make sense. You should be able to mount it in parallel. So this is what this PR is achieving, basically. So if anyone's interested in that, you can run. And again, this only affects CSI drivers that do not support node stage, and only in a scenario where you're trying to mount the same CSI volume. Sorry, from multiple pods on the same node. So in that narrow use case, there is a huge improvement. So I have that somewhere buried under like 10 comments. But yeah, I already have reviews on this. I'm just surfacing this higher and hassling people to take a look if they have time. So that's that. If anyone has questions, say now or message me. I'll be responsive. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Matt, for surfacing that and helping improve the code here. And folks on the call, please help review. Matt, if you don't get traction, feel free to ping us on Slack or come back to this meeting and poke folks again. Any discussion on this PR from anyone on the call?
I did have one quick question. So this should also help block-based CSI plugins too that support, say, read-only many scenarios, right?
What does blocking mean?
I meant CSI plugins that are backed by a block volume like, say, GCPD or EBS.
I don't think so, because those would go through map volume, right? I didn't even look at map volume, but it's possible that has the same issue.
So by block, I didn't mean like raw block mode, but like just a regular file system mounted.
Oh, I don't think so. Or I don't know. I don't know, because
it's like it supports a multi-attach read-only too, right? Or does it not?
Yes.
Okay, I was just curious if all of them benefit, or if it's somehow related to just something that does not do staging. I'll probably take a look at the PR.
Yeah, I think it's only if it doesn't support staging. Like I might be thinking too low level, but it's like just if the CSI driver does not implement staging, then we want to pretend it doesn't, or you want to treat it as it doesn't have a mount device call, which I think is how it should be. But yeah, I'll take a look and then I'll answer for sure. I'll be able to answer for sure.
Okay, any other questions on this PR? Cool, so please take a look when you get a chance. And second, we have avoid mount point check when cleaning mount points. Matt, again, you.
So this one is more obviously related to Manu's PR because his is trying to speed up the mount point check by reducing it to one syscall, because we're seeing that when you have a lot of mounts, meaning thousands of mounts, and you're creating and deleting a lot of pods at once, then getting a consistent read of the mount table, even if you retry 10 times in a row, is actually fairly unlikely. And I have numbers for that somewhere at the bottom of that PR where if I try to unmount 100 pods, each with 100 volumes, each at roughly the same time, I hit the consistent read error like 1,000 times. And in terms of how that affects performance, every failure means you have to enter exponential backoff and retry the operation. So in practice, in terms of like the time lost, it's like it takes like a couple minutes to unmount all those 100 volumes for all those 100 pods. But what this PR is doing, so that's the preamble, what this PR is doing is we're not even trying to optimize the mount point check. I am suggesting that we don't need it at all before we do an unmount. And I made a little bit of a mess of it, but I am 99.999% sure that umount, meaning the binary that is that we're assuming is on Linux, which is very safe to assume, I think, will return the string not mounted if something is not mounted, meaning like it already does a mount check for you when you call it on the target. So we don't really have to be doing the check first and then calling on mount and then doing the check right after again, which is what we're doing right now in practice. So that's what it's doing. It's basically checking for the string not mounted. And I had to rework the PR. So originally it was like relying on a flag to umount, but then I found like the flag didn't behave like how I wanted. So this is much simpler. It's just saying, check the string. If it says not mounted, then it's not mounted and we don't have to do anything else. That's all it is. And again, this speeds up things a lot in my testing. It takes it from on average minutes to unmount volumes to seconds, like 3 seconds. My testing is not super rigorous, but it's very easy to reproduce the results. So I would like to get this merged and
So it relies on parsing text output from a Unix command.
yeah.
And if the Unix command ever changed its text output, this would break.
Yes.
Right.
So I think. I know. So I anticipate that. So I have a little script prepared. So I think based on reading the code for it, which is in C, I don't know how to read C. I don't know how to write C. But like the not mounted thing has been in it since like 1993, if the copyright is right. So it's like, it is more of a stretch of an assumption than like assuming that on the host, there's going to be /proc/mounts. It's like one step further. We're now assuming that the output of this utility is going to say not mounted.
But not everyone uses the same umount binary. Like some people use BusyBox, which has its own umount binary, which who knows what message it outputs. And one can imagine other drop-in replacements for it as well. I don't know if you can guarantee that they're all going to have the same user interface with regard to text output.
I don't know. So I was thinking we could check for that also, because Cuba already when it starts up, it had as far as I think it does has some checks for like host properties. If you do get volume host, and you can get stuff like that, then we can call it on some nonsense. This is a very, this is a very crazy idea, but like you can call it on some nonsense path and check, does it say not mounted? If so, then we know this binary is right.
So is there no other way to address the original problem, which is that the mount check is slow?
That's the Manu syscall PR, but that relies on a new kernel. And sorry, it's very loud here. I think, like just in principle, if you mount, like even if you mount, we can't assume that it's outputting the same thing. It must be checking the mount table for us. So I'm thinking about
There's got to be a way that we
leverage
can
that.
do whatever umount is doing. If it can do it quickly, like in principle, we should be able to do the same thing quickly.
That's a good point.
I can't imagine that there's not a different way to solve this in code that doesn't involve parsing text output. But I mean, I don't know what the real problem is or why it would bog down under certain circumstances. But if we just do what umount does, like
yeah,
that should be an obvious optimization.
Yeah, that's true. So I think from what I remember, it does do a stat on the target as a first check, but that stat doesn't work or it's not guaranteed to work if like that's a bind mount. And then it says something like read mtab, and I didn't actually look at the implementation of read mtab. But if that is somehow better than our
Wait, is this related to the other issue, the longstanding one we have, which is issues assuming that mount points are oh, I forget what the name of the work item is. Saad, you might remember it. But we have longstanding problems with our heuristic that tries to figure out if something is a mount point or not. And we have known performance issues with the way that it reads the proc mount info file. And a solution was found, I thought, we were going to use. Is that the one that requires the new kernel or something?
Yeah, that's the one that requires new kernel.
Huh.
Relatively new kernel.
If I could just add a point. So, I mean, going to your point, Ben, that we could start doing what umount does, I'm not sure that's the right direction to go. And it's like, if we're concerned about systems that might have a different umount implementation, then like us trying to make a umount that reliably works across the apparent variety of systems, like also.
Oh, I only meant to copy the part that gets up to the not amount, error. Like whatever detection it's using to determine that it's not a mount, that part you could in theory safely copy.
Yeah.
And the actual work of doing the amount, I agree, is it's very complicated, and there are helper binaries and it gets nasty. You don't want to try to replicate all that, but
yeah, so like I'm actually thinking that, I mean, it's especially if I understand the context Matt's in, like this is on EKS, where presumably you have more control over the node than like a general Kubernetes thing. I'm wondering if we want to go more like in the direction of the deprecated experimental mounter path and give the cloud provider a way to hook and just do the right thing, in their specific case, rather than try and come up with a solution that works on, all possible Kubernetes deployments everywhere.
I think it's not cloud provider related. I think it's a distro that runs on a VM in that cloud.
Right,
It's
which
the-
is often like, because I mean, like, thinking of GKE, right? We run everything on Cause, which has its own, which is a specific distro that we have can control over. I mean, I'll admit to being a bit biased here because we're actually discovering a problem with the experimental mounter where GKE customers have come to depend on the fact that the containerized mounter runs in a context that has kube DNS, so you can use kube DNS to specify a NFS server, which does not work in general. And like, again, this is a situation where, like, if this is kind of like a cloud provider specific thing.
Well, it sounds like a deployer specific thing.
Yes. I mean, I guess my context is sort of the same thing.
Yeah, I think deployer is just more generic because anyone can deploy and control their configuration.
I'm sorry?
Anyone who can deploy Kubernetes can, in principle, control the configuration and do special hacks like what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so, like, I'm just thinking, if this problem of needing to tweak mount to do the right thing for something that is, like, perhaps specific to a deployment is best solved by having a deployment specific hook rather than trying to come up with a general, basically in-tree solution.
It doesn't sound like a terrible idea. It sounds safer, and there is going to be a general solution in tree for kernels that are new enough, right? It's just that on older, and I think it's really old kernels only, you have to fall back to the existing slow implementation. Like anything from the last, I don't know, 6-8 years should have the system call that the new approach relies on. I thought, if my memory is serving me.
Right, but I mean, I guess apparently we can't depend on. Well, it's like, I guess that we don't have a minimum kernel version requirement or something.
But you can runtime check if the system call you need is there and use it, and if not, fall back. That can all be built into just the regular workflow.
That's true. I mean, I guess it might depend how much we think this sort of thing might happen in the future.
I don't know. My preference is to fix the actual performance issue, which it sounds like we kind of know how to do. Put that in tree, and then if that's still not good enough for certain deployers, then pursue the hacky kind of deployer hook to do something special. But the concept of parsing the output of a UML binary in Kubernetes core seems horrifyingly unreliable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. But if you had a deployer hook, then that be all of
then it becomes the deployer's problem.
Stuff could be done in the hook, and so yeah.
Matt, your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of nasty. And originally I was thinking that we could rely on a flag, but then I misunderstood the meaning of the flag. And anyway, that flag also does not exist in all implementations of umount. So I don't know. I think I'm not satisfied with the kernel approach because I think you need to be 5.6, which is 2 years old. So it's not that old.
I might be mistaking this particular enhancement with some different bug fix related to performance. I didn't think it was that new.
I'm thinking of there's something that relies on OpenAT 2, and then if I Google OpenAT 2, that was in 5.6, so it's fairly new. And I think, at least for us,
Yeah,
we're stuck.
5.6 is fairly new.
Yeah, we're stuck supporting like 4.x kernel for, I don't know.
But you can runtime detect what you're dealing with and
Yes.
try the new thing and fall back to the old thing, and then gradually everyone will just get the benefit as they upgrade their kernels.
Yes, but the problem is we're very impatient, I think, on our side. So I don't know. I hear you guys. I know the I don't know the container OS, whatever that the hook you're talking about, Matt. And frankly, I don't want to invest that much effort into that for this, what seems to me like, you know, like the solution for us is Insight. You know, we could within EKS, obviously I shouldn't, you know, say we want to do this, but like we could just fork it and say, okay, you know, everyone's on Amazon Linux too. We know the UMAT binary, we control the configuration. But I really want to, you know, find some kind of middle ground. So yeah, I don't know. I'll dig into how, so as you said, Ben, I can dig into how the util Linux implementation actually does amount table check. Maybe we can copy that. And I still kind of do want to pursue the crazy check where, like, if we know a particular umount binary is going to return not mounted, I feel like that's not so bad to rely on that. But you just have to know and the only way to know that is by actually checking. So,
or having some flag that the deployer flips on, says, I assert that I'm
okay,
using the
yeah,
right UMount binary.
that's another,
right?
yeah, that wouldn't be so bad either, a flag, right? Because if you see my numbers, I think it's fairly justifiable. I know we're very hesitant about adding flags and stuff, but like the difference is like minutes, right? For unmounting versus seconds. So I wonder if that would justify yet another flag, but yeah, no, this is good discussion. I have a bunch of options, but just frankly, I'm under pressure to get something in, and I don't think I'm gonna want to invest in the sort of mount hook solution, which requires a lot of engineering work that might not be smart enough to do compared to this. So
yeah, so I mean, having the mount hook solution is also basically just a flag. As well.
Okay.
And the mount hook is not available for CSI drivers. Or how would you use it from inside the CSI driver?
Well, so
it's not a problem for CSI drivers because you can do whatever you want for a mount. Like it's okay to parse the umount output.
Yeah, but most CSI drivers use the same mount library as Kubernetes.
Sure, but I mean, if this is a big problem for them, they can just fix that, right? I mean, isn't this a particular problem for the NFS mount?
This, I don't want to muddy the waters too much, but we are mostly concerned about subpaths, which don't involve the CSI driver. So it's kubelet doing the unmount of the subpath. So we don't really care too much if it touches the library that's also relied on by CSI, because from our perspective, if there's 100 subpaths and there's only one EFS volume, we're more concerned about optimizing the subpath than what the EFS volume CSI driver is doing.
Yep.
And yeah. Okay, I don't know. I can hold the PR if we're super, you know, not comfortable with the not mounted approach, and I'm going to dig into the mount hook, and I'm going to dig into possibly a configuration option. I'm also going to dig into what umount is doing that's special. I don't know if it's holding a lock or whatever, but you know, I'll have to figure that out.
I think it just calls kernel and it gets invalid argument error, which means that it's not mounted. But I'm not sure we can use it in Kubernetes because you want to call the unmount helpers.
From my reading,
FS.
it did something like read mtab even before it called the helper.
So it is not in XFS.
Okay.
Maybe NFS is something special. That's where the mount helper. You need to call the mount helpers. That's the problem. So you need to call bin mount to call the mount helpers, and then you need to parse its output. If you know that the file system you are unmounting, it's like bind mount or like doesn't need a helper, then you can call unmount directly in kernel. But you must know that it's bind mount or something like that.
For subpath, we do know that, right? So
yeah, probably.
Is that another path? What if I syscall? I don't know.
It's just an unmount syscall.
Okay, so that's a fourth, if I'm counting correctly, path I need to pursue. But yeah, let me look into that as well.
Yeah, it will be hard to do it in the mount library. You need to have like some special call that you know it's bind mount, like unmount bind mount or something like that.
So I think there's like just, you can't distinguish, like there's no way to distinguish, but it's just, you have to rely on the assumption that because it's a subpath, it must be a bind mount, which is kind of, maybe might be dangerous, right? So.
Like the main volume should be mounted at that point. So you should be pretty sure that's safe. But you never know, of course. If users unmount it first in the directory, then the subpath will be the only last remaining mount. Then you need to call the mount helper. Yeah, I don't see a nice solution, to be honest.
Okay, I'm gonna quote you on that. I'm gonna give that to my manager. There's no nice solution, so don't rush me. Yeah.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Matt, Carrie, you have your hand up.
Oh, I think I haven't figured out how to put my hand down in Zoom.
No worries.
Sorry.
Anyone else have a comment on this? All right. Thank you, Matt, for bringing this up and the discussion. Anyone else have a comment on this before we move on to the next item? I assume the speed up mount point cleanup when there's thousands of mount points. Is this related or unrelated?
Yeah, this was meant to be a sub point of that. Sorry.
Got it. Okay, no worries. And we have no design reviews today. A couple of miscellaneous comments. First up, Shing.
Yeah, so KubeCon EU is coming up next month. So a few of us will be there. Yang and I will be giving an update on SIG storage. So I think last time at the KubeCon North America, we had this meet and greet. It's part of the contributor summit. Do we want to do the same thing? Yesterday in the data protection working group, there were a few people asking if there is a meetup. So I think we could grab a table there at the contributor summit and maybe we could just meet. So it's more like casual. It's not, we don't have a formal agenda like we used to have, because I think this time we don't really have a quorum. So I think there are probably more people going there this time than last time. But still a lot of people are not going there. So I think that maybe we could you could just chat there at that contributor summit. And then there's also this meet and greet, but I think meet and greet is more for you want to meet some new people who are interested in joining your SIG, right? So if there are other people who are already part of the SIG want to chat, I think we could also do that before the meet and greet. Yeah, just want to see if there are anyone interested, you can sign up for the contributor summit.
Cool. Anyone have comments or concerns or? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the last item then. Ben?
Yeah, so many of you are probably aware of the executive order in the United States around software security to basically harden any software that the government purchases. And people at my company, at least, are running around with their hair on fire about this. I didn't know if the rest of y'all are in similar situations. My question is about the Kubernetes community in general. Is there any effort to enhance Kubernetes security or harden it in accordance with the executive order that you are aware of? Because presumably Kubernetes is used by the US government. And if it doesn't meet the requirements laid out, there probably will be problems. So I was just curious what, if anything, was being done or if there were activities being tracked that anyone knows about.
So I know that in last KubeCon, there are a lot of talks around security. So I think it's related to this executive order. And also Kubernetes release team, they in 1.22 release, they also added this bill of materials, that shows the source code binaries and published images. I think that might be responding to, to respond to this. I do not remember the details. I remember when I was at KubeCon, I attended some sessions and they were talking about this executive order. So I'm pretty sure in Kubernetes there are work going on. Maybe the best way to track this would be there's a security SIG, maybe.
Oh yes, security SIG.
Yeah.
Okay, they would certainly know more.
Right. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure Kubernetes has this one. Has work going on. Like I said, even in SIG release, there are a few things that is related to this. But if you want to know everything that we're doing, then probably the best way is to go to SIG security and check there.
Yeah, thank you for that recommendation, Xing. That should have been obvious to me, but it wasn't.
There's also, I think there are several co-located events related to security as well at the last KubeCon. So it's like half of the sessions has something to do with security.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, one of the weirder requirements was around like unit test coverage, and I didn't know if Kubernetes had particularly high unit test coverage or if it was even measured. I didn't know if anyone was doing anything about it.
What do you mean unit test coverage is mentioned in the executive order? What do you mean by that? I'm not.
Yeah, my understanding of the requirement is that the executive order specifies 80% unit test coverage for projects. And I don't know how mandatory that is or how realistic that is, but it seemed high. And I was like, oh, 80%. I didn't even know if Kubernetes hits that bar. But yeah, I can follow up with the security guys because they would probably be more likely to know the details.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to sort of find out what was going on, and it sounds like I'll need to follow up with that other group.
Cool, sounds good. And if you discover anything, feel free to bring it back to the SIG and let folks know, just FYI.
Okay.
All right, I think that's pretty much it for the agenda today. Anyone else have any other items they want to discuss? If not, we are right at time today. All right, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Saad.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.